Authors to activists, typewriters to touch screens, Douglas to Dylan. The American Writers Museum is the first and only national museum honoring American writers and their work. With interactive exhibits and programs that celebrate the past, promote the present, and inspire the future of writing, the museum is a modern, interactive place with sights, sounds, scents, touchscreens, and original installations. Our programs promote today's writers. The museum topped Fodor's list of the world's 10 best new museums. Since the museum opened, we have welcomed visitors from all 50 states and 35 foreign countries. The American Writers Museum inspires the future. It's a one-of-a-kind venue for students to learn about writers and writing in surprising new ways. The next generation of great American writers is among us right now. Our programs are growing, our impact is deep, and our potential is great. If you haven't visited the American Writers Museum yet, go. If you have been there, go again and again. You'll learn something new every time, and you will leave inspired.
Hi there. Welcome to the American Writers Museum. I'm Kerry Cranston, the president here, and I want to welcome you tonight to OnWord 2020, our first online virtual fundraising event. A very different format for us in these very trying and difficult times. We're glad you could join us tonight, and we hope that the work that we're doing and that you may learn about tonight is something that will make you want to help support our mission and what we do. At the American Writers Museum, we work hard to celebrate the great writers of the past, promote the great writers of the present, and really together to inspire the writers of tomorrow. If you want to help us tonight, you can text the word writers to the number below me, or you can visit awmgive.org. Either way, any support you can give would be a wonderful way to help us do the work that we need to do and want to do. And to that end tonight, we have a very special guest MC, Mr. Peter Sagal, who's going to help us celebrate what we do and have a lot of fun. So with that in mind, I want to hand it off quickly to Peter. So take it away, Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Sagal. Good evening from my home in Chicago, where I am wearing the nicest shirt I've worn in 8 months. That American Writers Museum sounds really great. I wish I could be there right now. I wish I could be there with all of you, or maybe in some lovely hotel ballroom, eating tasty dishes served to us by nice people with cocktails. That would be great. I wish for a lot of things. If any of those wishes come true, you'll know my hair will grow back and I will have read all those books behind me. It has been, let's be honest with each other, a pretty tough time these last few months for everyone. And I am very, very lucky, comparatively speaking. I have my health. I still am gainfully employed. Everything is going okay. I hope that is true for all of you. But let's also be honest, it's sometimes too easy in the midst of everything we're going through to give up hope, to give up the hope that anything good will come of any of this to any of us. But for those of us who are readers, for those of us who love writers and writing, it is hard for us to accept that. Every time a writer puts a pen to paper or a finger to a keyboard, she has expressed hope through action that what she has to say will matter, that it will last, that it will be useful, that it will have meaning sometime in an indefinite future. In fact, to write is to express faith in the future, that the future will come and that the lessons and the wisdom of the present will have meaning then. And every time those of us who love to read open up a new book, or for that matter, read a poem or a song, it's not so much we're looking for knowledge or insight or even really poetry. What we're hungering for is coherence. That is, that in the pages of the book or in the poem or the song or whatever it might be, there will be meaning, because the writer's job isn't just to record incidents or facts or even her own thoughts. It's to take all of those things that the world is made of, the random occurrences, the insane, inexplicable acts, and make it all make sense. The most basic human need before anything is meaning. We want to know what's going on. We want to know how we got here. And most of all, And I think I speak for all of us. We want to know what's going to happen next. So that is the job of the writer, to stand in the hurricane that is daily life and reach out with a quick hand and a sharp eye and pluck out the truth from the maelstrom. Is there one truth? No. If there were, I wouldn't eat all these books. But there's a lot more than one kind of food too, and yet every day we're all still hungry for more. So if you want to know why it is I love this museum and am happy to be here tonight and will be there again the next time I have a chance to support it or work with it, and why I'm glad you're also here tonight to support it, well, let's just say a guy's got to eat. Now, if you look down at the bottom of the screen there, I think I'm pointing at it, right? You will see a running tally of the support that we are receiving tonight. We're going to keep it updated throughout the evening. Now, the museum, of course, really needs your help in these difficult times, and we're hopeful you can help us tonight because the trustees of the American Writers Museum have issued a $150,000 matching challenge that runs through tonight. So every donation will be matched dollar for dollar from our board. So if you can help support us with a gift of any amount, we will double your gift. Now, tonight's event will include winners from our first student writing contest, author Erika Sánchez giving out our Teacher Inspiration Award, special insights from some of the guest writers in our My America exhibit, a special reading from the legendary Bill Curtis, and a performance by the Boston Typewriter Orchestra. But first, as we are asking you for your support, we want to bring up Joan Clifford. She is a museum trustee and the chair of OnWord 2020 to present the Cultural and Civic Leader Award to two people who've been amazing supporters of this museum and a host of institutions around Chicago and the country. Without the help of people like them, this museum would not exist. Joan?
Good evening. I have the privilege of presenting the award to our OnWord 2020 Cultural and Civic Leader honorees. Two good friends who are quiet, humble, and discreet, and shy away from any kind of recognition, even though they are most worthy of it. Roger and Julie Baskes. Roger and Julie have been lifelong and very generous supporters of the arts and culture in our great city. Both Roger and Julie have a deep love of books and literature, as well as a keen understanding of how to encourage and instill an appreciation of the fundamental importance of reading and writing to the next generation. According to our museum's founder, Malcolm O'Hagan, Roger's wisdom, counsel, and advice were pivotal to the opening of this museum in Chicago. In Malcolm's own words, the museum would not exist today were it not for the help and invaluable advice he received from Roger. Roger and Julie's kindness and generosity is shown and recognized throughout Chicago and beyond. They endowed the Roger and Julie Baskes Department of Special Collections at the Newberry Library, where Roger served as chairman of the board, and where Roger also received a very prestigious award which honors individuals who have made outstanding contributions to the humanities. Roger and Julie endowed the Baskes Rotunda at the Ellis Rappaport Center for Education at the Goodman Theater, where Roger serves on the Board of Trustees and has been a very valuable member over the years. I serve on that board with Roger and can attest to that. Roger, you can always count on Roger. Roger also served on the board of the Opera Theater and was the former president of the International Map Collectors Society, a hobby of Roger's. Julie is an executive committee member of the Lyric Opera Board of Directors and the past president of the Ryan Opera Center. Julie also serves as a member of the Civic Advisory Council of the Merritt School of Music. Together, Roger and Julie support the Library of Congress, the University of Chicago Library, the Steppenwolf Theater, the Shakespeare Theater, and they have been supporters of the CSO for over 40 years. There seems to be one very apparent overriding theme to Roger and Julie's civic engagement. They care about the importance of advancing and supporting the arts in our community. In doing so, they help and enrich lives and spirits of so many people who might not have otherwise had the opportunity to enjoy a good book, see a great play, or experience the opera. Roger and Julie are true champions of the arts in every way. I am only sorry that we cannot celebrate them in person this evening. As you can see, they are most deserving of this award, and I am truly honored to be presenting it to them this evening.
I was born in Chicago, 85 years ago and do care a lot about Chicago's cultural reputation. But when I met Malcolm O'Hagan and Werner Hein and found that they were planning an American Writers Museum in Chicago, I was surprised, even skeptical. But I found them both so persuasive that I hung around for many months and watched this remarkable process begin. In just a few years, the museum's space itself and what goes on in it has fulfilled our fondest hopes. Julie and I are especially pleased at the degree to which the Writers Museum enriches other Chicago cultural institutions by educating our school children about literature, history, and music. Our libraries, theaters, and live music need American writers, readers, and audiences, who we hope will later include many of these children. Julie and I are very proud to be among those of you who were founders and supporters of the American Writers Museum, and very proud to be honored by you in this way. Thank you for that, and be well.
When I was in grade school, my favorite day of the week was Friday. Every Friday afternoon, I'd go to the local branch of the Chicago Public Library and check out as many books as I could carry. Once homework was done, I could spend the rest of the weekend in a favorite chair with a book and a red box of raisins. In every place Roger and I have lived, one of the first rooms we planned was the library. Roger built the first one himself. So it was an easy decision to support the American Writers Museum. Without writers, we wouldn't have books, and we'd all be poorer for it. Thank you for this honor, and thank you for joining us this evening.
I had no money and no hope of having money. I didn't have a car, nor would I ever have a car. I didn't have nice clothes, but I discovered that I had words, and words became my magic carpet, my identity. I was the guy.
So for me, that was that feeling of power of being able to tell my own story as opposed to just reading it in textbooks. That's what drew me into wanting to write. I think of...
So I put it all on paper, all of these emotions, everything I was feeling inside. And it was really, for me, writing was an act of survival, because it got me through all those difficult years of trying to figure out where I belonged.
Myself. And because not only did writing these stories bring me pleasure, but I also believed then, and still believe deeply now, that stories are also fundamental to how we see ourselves as people, as citizens, as Americans.
People love to hear writers talk about their work almost as much as writers love to talk about it. In the American Writer Museum's My America exhibit, visitors can hear from over 30 modern writers talking about their inspiration, their process, their influences, so much more. And as you can see below, right? Yes, there's a thing there. We are making progress. As your generous gifts come in, please help us grow that number if you can tonight. We have some amazing gifts given to us already. We're very grateful, but that does not mean we don't want more. At the museum, there's a space called Readers Hall. In normal times, it's a place where writers like the one you just heard from would come to speak and talk with audiences filled with museum members and guests. And of course, since the pandemic began, all of that's had to move online. But the other thing that used to happen almost every day in that room were gatherings of students who would come to the museum for field trips. They'd learn about the museum before heading out to explore, and sometimes they gathered in that room to meet a writer. One day it was me. I feel vaguely guilty about that for the kids who expected maybe somebody cool, but it was an amazing pleasure and honor. I talked to them about writing comedy. I got to spend a little time with smaller groups. I am really looking forward to doing that again when things return to normal. As Carrie knows, frankly, I'm not doing this so I can talk to you. I'm doing it so I can talk to the kids. During a normal year, over 2/3 of the thousands of students who visit have their field trips subsidized by American Writers Museum donors. Not only are the trips free for them and the school, their buses are paid for as well. Make sure that students from all around the region, no matter what resources they or their school have, can participate in these programs. This year, the museum set up its first ever student writing contest, and we were just able to give out $3,000 scholarships. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce this look at the winners.
The American Writers Museum welcomes middle and high school students to learn about American writers and their enduring relevance. Specially designed curriculum complements classroom teaching and inspires students to be confident, creative writers.
This museum is a bit different and innovative in the fact that students see the history of writing and then they get to experience the process themselves.
One word I would use to describe this museum, be relatable in some sense, because really that's what writing is, I feel. You write to feel, you write to express, you write to connect, and really that's what this museum makes you feel.
My favorite part of the museum was going to the back and reading about the female writers and how writing has changed throughout the years.
The Nation of Writers exhibit was my favorite part of the museum because I can really relate to everything there, whether it be religiously, gender-wise, or racial-wise. It's really inclusive.
When I heard of the American Writers Museum, I thought of just old books and then a bunch of writings from the past, but it was so interactive and it was so technology-based. I couldn't really imagine anything else other than this. It was very, very advanced, and I enjoyed it very much.
Well, I'm excited at this point in the evening to present the award winners for our first ever writing contest. It was tied to this special exhibit that I'm standing in right now, My America, Immigrant and Refugee Writers Today. We asked students from all over the Chicagoland area to submit their responses to the prompt, My America Is. And now I would like to bring up one of our first winners, Isa Cuballo. Isa is a high school senior at Niles North High School. She loves creating beauty through food, art, and words. She's a 16-year-old Filipina, and her name means consecrated to God. She is also the editor-in-chief of her yearbook at her school, and we're excited to hear from her tonight, hear her work, and hear about her. So, Isa, come on up and join us. Thank you.
When people talk about legacy, they talk about going back to their roots. But here, America is like a grafted tree. My Lola broke herself off of the tree she had grown from in order to be tied to, pushed against, and grafted into the tree of America. Though she went back to the Philippines before she died, she left the branches of her family to grow here.
I'm pleased to announce one of our other winners tonight, Sophia Suba. Sophia is a Nepali American who came to the United States as a refugee with her family. This fall, she will attend 6th grade in Community Unit School District 200 in Wheaton, Illinois. Sophia is part of her district's gifted education program and has plans to become a computer software engineer one day. She loves reading, spending time with her family, technology, and K-pop music. I want to congratulate Sophia, and I look forward to hearing her piece, which is really wonderful. Thank you.
I just want to say a special thank you to my teachers, Mrs. Brell and Miss Corrado, for always encouraging me and supporting me. My Bee Necklace by Sophia Suba. America has different meanings to different people. To me, My America is proudly carrying your family's religion and story with you while being American. As a Nepali American from a religious family, an object that is extremely important to me is my bead necklace, also known as a mala.
Our final winner tonight could not join us here in the museum. Nina Artwell is a high school senior from Niles North High School. Nina describes herself as a small uptown Chicago girl with huge dreams of becoming a teacher. She believes writing is a source of being able to speak your emotions without saying too much. All her life, she has always had to mask her true emotions just because of the way society has painted the stereotypes of a black woman. And through writing her piece, she was able to show the world a glimpse out of her mind's window.
I want to give a shout out to all my ancestors for giving me the pathway to create this piece. My America Is by Nina Artwell. The I's are lowercase for a reason. My America is being lowercase in the eyes of a white man as a black woman. I can't breathe, said by Eric Gardner, a black man who forcefully tasted the pavement his people made as he took his last dying breath. Pain. Pain and suffering as a community, knowing our fate from the day we were born. I want to just say a quick thank you to all of you and your team. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just voice my opinion. Sometimes I can't really because of the position I am, and not in just America, but in my society. So I want to thank you all for awarding me in my piece for something so so near and dear to my heart. So thank you, truly.
Like I said, I grew up very working class, and so my idea of writing is, I think, has like some working class elements to it. Where like I think of writing not as like a mystical process where I sit down kind of with the page and the pen and wait for inspiration to come down from God, but I think of it as like I think of myself as a plumber. Like I have to show up.
I think that regardless of a writer's background, the writer's perspective is anchored in who they are as a person and the sum of their experiences.
That is my writing process. I think just my philosophy is you always start from the unknown, and when you write, you get to know a little bit better, just getting closer, but never there.
I kind of look at it like it's my abuela's always with me, kind of prodding me along, saying, keep going, and I like that, and it's why my stories are very personal and dear to me, because it's always like I'm whispering a secret to my abuela.
There's an amazing concept behind the Writers Museum that you saw in action just then. We all know about artists who go to the great art museums and they stare at the walls and they see things that inspire them, and then they go back home and create art. And the idea that such a museum could exist for writers and writing and do the same thing is, I think, a small but wonderful leap forward, and I am grateful to be a part of it. Now, the work that we do with students can only be done again with the support of donors. As you can see below, the number keeps going up with your very generous donations. Any amount helps. We've seen gifts for $10, $10,000. Please, if you can, however you can, we can use your help. And I say this knowing that there's a lot of things that can use your help, but I'm hoping that since you're here with us tonight and hopefully would have been up with us at the actual event, that the museum means as much to you as it does to me. The museum is exceedingly proud of its work with students, but students need teachers. The museum recognizes the extraordinary impact teachers have had on their students. And this is where the next honor of the evening comes from, the American Writers Museum Inspiration Award. Each year, the museum selects an established writer to nominate a teacher they feel was inspirational to them. The selected teacher is awarded a $10,000 prize sponsored by the Chicago Council for the American Writers Museum. You can tell that I'm usually edited. This is why they don't let me go live. I screw things up. This year, poet, essayist, teacher, and novelist Erika Sánchez is here via the power of Zoom to present this honor to her favorite teacher from elementary school, Ms. Kathy Schultz.
First of all, thank you, Mrs. Schultz, for doing this. I'm just so excited to, offer you this award through the American Writers Museum. It's just such a pleasure to reconnect with you after so many years. So I wrote a little something, and I hope you enjoy it. Growing up in the town of Cicero, Illinois, came with various challenges for a person like me. As an unusual, curious child, there were not many people who were able to support my creativity and restless nature. Though my parents were as encouraging as they could be when it came to education, it was a realm that was very foreign to them. They were immigrants from Mexico who worked in factories and had only attained a 6th grade education. There were many teachers who looked down on us because we were poor brown kids. Some of us would even prohibit us from speaking Spanish or refuse to pronounce our names correctly. Some of them openly mocked our traditions and culture. There were, however, teachers who were exceptional. Mrs. Schultz, in particular, is a teacher I will never forget. What made Mrs. Schultz extraordinary is that she cared deeply about us and was never afraid to show it. It was clear in her enthusiasm in which she approached all of her teaching. Each lesson was an adventure. While many teachers in our school underestimated our abilities because of who we were and where we came from, Mrs. Schultz treated us as though we were just as capable as anyone else. She challenged our thinking and celebrated our achievements. I always wanted to impress her because I respected who she was and I knew that her interest in our well-being was sincere. I know that she genuinely loved us. I have rarely encountered a person who is as kind-hearted as Mrs. Schultz. My best friend Claudia and I were often rambunctious and absurd and probably very disruptive in her class. But instead of lashing out, Mrs. Schultz approached us with patience and compassion, often indulging our ridiculous comments and ideas. As a child, I felt very misunderstood by my peers, my family, and my environment. But Mrs. Schultz was able to see me for who I was. I didn't have the language for it at the time, but in retrospect, she was one of the few people in my life who was able to celebrate my creativity and respect my intelligence. I was an avid reader, and Mrs. Schultz always had suggestions. I felt that she knew that I was special, which is something I rarely felt. 25 years after I was a student in her 5th grade class, I reconnected with Mrs. Schultz thanks to Claudia, who remains one of my closest friends. Over lunch, we reminisced over many moments during that school year, many of which I had forgotten. What struck me was how clearly Mrs. Schultz remembered us and the joy that it brought her to talk about those times. There are few human beings as caring and as sincere as Mrs. Schultz. Her passion for teaching and her respect for her students is something I haven't come across very often in my entire educational career. I can't think of anyone more deserving of the Inspiration Award. Thank you for everything, Mrs. Schultz.
Erika, I wrote a few words too. Oh! So Erika, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for nominating me for this prestigious award. I also want to thank the American Writers Museum for recognizing your amazing talent. I taught you, Erika, 25 years ago at Burnham Elementary School in Cicero, Illinois. You were a bright 5th grade student who was determined to do your best in school, even though you and Claudia had your own way of doing that. Your writing skills were obvious even then, as well as your devotion to family and friends. And I spoke to Miss Delaney yesterday because I wanted to read this little speech to her. And she is so proud of you, just as I am. But it wasn't a surprise to me, and it certainly wasn't a surprise to Miss Delaney either, that your book was so highly rated and went onto the New York Times bestsellers list. We are so proud of you. That you nominated me for this award is the icing on the cake for this retired teacher of 35 years. It was always my dream to inspire you and all of my students. And because I couldn't have children of my own, you were all my children. So, Erika, you are amazing, and you make us all proud. I would like to accept this honor, especially in this year of unprecedented challenge. And the teachers work so hard and try to do the very best to encourage their students. And we are always happy when you make us proud, and you do so well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I really appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Me too.
So that's been the biggest reason why I've continued to write, because I have a voice that others may not. And through my voice, I think their voice shines as well.
That is a mix. So people are very afraid in my community, and I mean, I feel like kind of, one way that I can contribute to what is happening in that community is by writing those stories, is by writing.
I think that is the one thing about community that I think is important to me, is that it reminds me who I am.
Yeah, I've realized that for me, I only belong in places I create. And that has been, I think, the most important thing I've learned in my brief life so far, is that I can make worlds. That's literally my job, is to make worlds. I can make them for myself, I can make them for other people, I can put them in books. And so instead of searching for other people to give me a place to belong, I just bent one into existence myself. So
I don't know about you, but I am now sitting here thinking I've disappointed all my teachers by never becoming a best-selling author. Anyway, I was recently watching the old BBC TV series, I, Claudius. Anybody? I, Claudius? Because I've watched all of Netflix. And there's this scene early on when the emperor and his family is having dinner. It's a big feast, and they have the entertainer, they have the dancers, and they have the musicians, and then they send them all out for the big, I guess, headliner of the evening, and it's a poet who comes in and reads his work. That's it. That's what they got instead of Netflix. And it reminded me of something that we all kind of know, that what we call literature was not for the first, I don't know, millennia written down. It was sung, it was recited. Writing wasn't invented for literature. It was invented basically for accounting. So it's still, I think, it's deep in our consciousness that we love to hear great writing read aloud by a great voice. And there's no greater voice than Chicago's own Bill Curtis, who I'm lucky to call my friend and colleague. So here in this evening's headline entertainment, a recitation of great literature, is Bill Curtis.
Hello, my name is Bill. Welcome to the American Writers Museum Little Squirrel Storytime. I'm going to read from the Baby Duck book, if Mama Duck says it's all right. This is about Baby Duck. When Baby Duck starts his day, he follows Mama Duck to his favorite pond. That's where we're going, Baby Duck. To your pond. You know how much you like that. Wait for me, Mom. Wait for me. When Baby Duck goes swimming, he paddles smoothly through the water. He does it very well because that's what he likes, water. When Baby Duck is hungry, he tips forward to nibble on a lily leaf and get his veggies. When Baby Duck finishes his swim, he shakes his feathers until they are dry. When Baby Duck is happy, he lets his family know with a loud quack. Quack, 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 quack. And when Baby Duck's day is done, he settles down in his cozy roost. Good night, Baby Duck. Good night. The end.
People have often said that Bill Curtis could read the phone book and make it sound fascinating, and Bill was like, no, not enough of a challenge. That video of Bill we just watched was made back in March, just right after the museum and everything else closed down. And since then, it's been a very hard time for museums and cultural institutions, theaters, all around the country. And this new young museum that we all support has felt that particularly hard, having to move its annual event from April till now, its fundraising event, and now, of course, having to do it online. And that's why we still need your help. So we're very grateful for all the donations that have come in, that are still coming in, and we'll be grateful if you can add to that stream as we round out the evening. And as we do that, let's take a minute to look at what the museum has done and is doing during this unprecedented time to continue to connect with visitors and supporters and members and students, even when most people can't make it through the doors.
The world has changed a lot recently, and so has the American Writers Museum. While the museum is still a great place to visit and interact and learn, it is no longer just a physical location. We have been hard at work bringing our content, our programs, and our passion to the world. We have launched new virtual exhibits like My America and Frederick Douglass Agitator. The sites include a deep sample of the original content, along with curriculum for teachers and students. A new site based on our American Voices exhibit will launch this fall. Our author programs have also moved online. Now we can engage hundreds of visitors with our conversations with authors, from bestsellers to poet laureates to first-time novelists, all meant to engage and inspire our audiences. And our past programming is coming alive with a YouTube page full of past programs, new stories, and special projects, including a new podcast series to make it even easier to connect with the writers who inspire you. And most importantly, this fall, we'll launch a series of virtual field trips to help connect with students who normally would visit us and engage in the museum and find inspiration in the writers and their stories. The American Writers Museum is now accessible to everyone, everywhere, every day. No matter where you visit us, in person or online, we'll be there to celebrate and honor the power of American writing with you.
To be an American is to embrace that difference and to celebrate it and to investigate it and to encourage it.
That way. That's the whole reason why I write about what I do. I want people to know these are Hispanic Americans. This is who we are, and we are you, which is the truth.
America isn't perfect, not even close at all, but I think a good American will always criticize the sins, especially the original sins of this country, but not just criticize, but try to make it and push it into that better place, into that city.
I think that's why writing is so important, because we try to put very difficult words into sentences that make sense. And my biggest challenge right now as a writer is finishing that paragraph of what does it mean to be American. But I think
and one of the ultimate expressions of our American identity is to be able to do both those things, to be proud of who we are and to also recognize what we have done wrong, and to believe that we should be able to address these flaws, these failures, and make ourselves better.
So that's what the museum has been doing and will continue to do to reach people even during this tough time when access to each other is limited. And while the museum's open again, it's with a recognition that visits will remain limited for a while, and your support is what is still needed to keep the doors open. We've made some great progress tonight, looking down at that green band, on raising more funds for the institution. We hope that you will continue to give tonight and in the future. And if any of you happen to see this video as it lives on, please, we would love your donation. Last year, when I did this event live, with the benefit of seeing you all in front of me, as well as cocktails, I told a story that I've told many times before and was honored to tell it then. I won't go through the whole thing, but in brief, it's about a friend of mine named Morgan Jeunesse, who many, many years ago was pursuing a career in the theater and felt unfulfilled and instead wanted to go work for Mother Teresa, feeding the hungry in Calcutta. And she met Mother Teresa, because that's the kind of person Morgan is, and she told Mother Teresa of her ambition, and Mother Teresa said, no, don't do that. And Mother Teresa said to my friend Morgan, there are many kinds of famine. In my country, we have a famine of the body. In your country, America, you have a famine of the spirit. Stay here and feed your people. And I heard that story a long time ago, and I think about it a lot, obviously, and I've been thinking about it a lot recently because, well, first of all, it turns out we do have a famine of the body here in America, as well as a lot of other physical threats, and we no longer have the privilege, if I could use that word, to ignore it. But I also think about Mother Teresa's metaphorical famine as well. Now, doctors know that if a body is not fed, if it doesn't get the right nutrition in the right amounts, it starts to fail in really terrible ways. The body starts to break down and feed on itself. And if you, in desperation, start eating the wrong foods, toxins and poisons, then things get even worse. One way of looking at what our country is going through right now is a terrible case of spiritual malnutrition. People are feeding on unhealthy stories, skewed facts, fictions that are meant, to paraphrase Woody Guthrie, to make you think you aren't any good, that other people aren't any good. Stories that celebrate darkness and mock what's right. You can see all around us right now how twisted things get when people's minds get fed junk. To paraphrase another famous saying, those to whom evil stories are told tell evil stories in return. So this year, I'll say it again, I will continue to say it with increasing urgency, we need to support the American Writers Museum, because of the American Writers Museum. The American Writers Museum's work to support American writers, old, passed on, living writers yet to come, in order to feed our people. As we leave you tonight, first of all, my thanks. I'm very, very grateful for all of you for being with us, looking at this screen as opposed to the other screens you've been looking at all this time. I'm very grateful you chose to spend your time with us. I'm extremely grateful for the donations that you have made, and I hope you will continue to make. Thank you for being here, and to paraphrase my people, the Jews, next year in a ballroom. As we leave you tonight, we want to bring you some unique users of our favorite instrument, the typewriter. They create music from a machine that normally makes words. Thank you, everybody, again, from the museum, everybody who works there, its staff, its founder, its president, the staff tonight, and of course from me. And please enjoy this number from the Boston Typewriter Orchestra.